All right, so in today's video, I'm gonna be going over some essential tools that any apprentice welder or Boilermaker or ironworker or just metal trades in general should carry on them all day, every day. So I know right away some people are gonna nitpick this stuff in the comments and say you should have this and that. This is just a general accumulation of different things I've come up with when I completed my Boilermaker apprenticeship. So this stuff all applies to basically working not in a shop, not just welding pipe, not just welding I-beams, not just bolting stuff up. This stuff is all, I've done a bunch of different work on a bunch of different variety of equipment, and it's mostly been in industrial plant settings and on shutdowns, new construction, maintenance jobs. And, I hop around I'm a unionized Boilermaker currently, so I hop around to different companies. So this stuff will obviously be different in every scenario. This is just the stuff I've come up with. So if you have some stuff to recommend, put them down in the comments. People probably say, oh, you missed this. No, I didn't. I didn't miss anything. This is what I think the 10 essential things are. For your scenario, there might be something that's more essential than what I have. So I didn't miss anything, just add it in the comments of what you think should be added. Now, the list could be 100 tools on here, but like I said, this is for no specific job. This isn't just for welding pipe. This isn't just for bolting up stuff. This is for just general, metal trades in general, and nothing in particular, although it is based off of a Boilermaker career, where you hop around to lots of different job sites with lots of different companies on lots of different pieces of equipment and different jobs. So again, it's not specialized. I don't have spacer wedges for pipe welding or stuff like that in here because that's only specific to one thing. This is, tools that could be used if you're welding an I-beam or if you're welding an open root pipe. Okay, so the first must-have tool that you cannot go without, and you're gonna look stupid if you don't have it, is a tape measure. Now, there's a lot of journeymen out there that don't carry a tape measure. You'd be actually surprised. So they're gonna turn to their apprentice and ask for a tape measure all the time. So I would recommend even carrying 2 of these at all times if you can. And it's pretty obvious what they're used for, measuring stuff. It doesn't matter, again, if you're welding I-beams, if you're hard facing a bucket, or if you're welding a elbow on some pipe, you're gonna need a tape measure at some point. It's, basically every single trade there is, you're gonna need a tape measure. It doesn't matter if you're making cabinets or drilling into the core of the earth for mining. You need a tape measure. Go out, get a tape measure, have one on you at all times. Buy more than one because you're gonna lose them on jobs. When you lose them or break them, just have another one ready to go in your lunch bag or somewhere in your car or whatever. Okay, so number 2 on the list is a nice pair of leather boots. When I say a nice pair, I don't mean expensive. I mean nice as in they're leather and they're not super cheap. So don't buy super cheap boots, but also don't buy very expensive boots. And I'll explain why. So the reason you should get leather boots is you're welding and you're around fire. And if you're working on shutdowns or plant equipment that, you gotta go into confined spaces or just, confined spaces or areas with corrosive acids and stuff, leather is good and it's pretty tolerant to a lot of stuff, especially burns, welding, and stuff like that. So if you're gouging in a confined space and you get some globs of slag on these boots, it's not gonna be a huge deal because they're leather. Now, if you go out there and you buy your fancy $400 boots, a lot of them are made out of like polyester and composite instead of steel, and they make them out of these weird materials that don't really fit into working around molten metal. And you're gonna wear through your boots probably once every year anyway. So if you go out and you buy these super expensive ones, they're made out of non-leather materials, they're gonna get burnt up, they're gonna get trashed, and you're just gonna end up buying a new pair in a year anyway. Now, there are some scenarios where that might not happen, but in most cases, if you're running around on plant shutdowns and stuff, you're gonna want something like this, again, because it's leather, it's fire resistant, it's not gonna melt, and they just look good. Like, these boots look great, and you know, these, I've seen a lot of guys wear these. You're not gonna get chirped for having these boots. Okay, so item number 3 is a respirator. And I already did a video on this respirator. This is the 3M quick latch respirator. Depending on what you're doing, you know, if you work in a shop, you know, you can use a papper, or if you weld pipe, you can use a papper, or if you do prefab on site or stuff like that. But a papper doesn't really work when you're crawling into tight areas or crawling through I-beams or stuff like that, because a lot of them are belts or backpacks and they're just gonna get snagged on stuff. So this is a good all-around option. Again, it's a respirator like this isn't necessarily the best for your health. Obviously a papper would be, but this one you're gonna be able to wear in the most scenarios. You could wear it in a shop, you can wear it in a confined space. They're super light. This one's the quick latch, so you can hang it down off your face without fully taking the whole strapping off of your head and having it hang open like that where it's gonna collect dust. This is, honestly, I don't have any association with 3M, but they make good stuff. And this is hands down the best respirator on the market. No one can beat it. I've seen some people review the new Lincoln one. I don't care what you say. The Lincoln, if it doesn't have a flip down feature, it can go screw itself. This thing is gel, so it's super comfortable on your face. And like I said, you can hang it down off your face without actually taking the whole thing off your head. I don't know why more companies haven't used this feature, but this respirator, hands down, if you need a respirator, which you most likely do, I would highly recommend going on Amazon and buying this. And then you can get the 2997 filters or the 2297 filters. And there's a couple others, but I mostly run 2097 and 2297s. So next up is a good welding shield. And when I say good, I don't mean expensive. Once again, you're gonna find a lot of products out there, you know, stuff that's really, really expensive is either expensive because it's expensive to make, or it's just a brand like Yeti coolers and stuff using their name to charge a high price for something you don't need. So if you're out there welding in the field, I highly don't recommend you go out and buy these fancy large auto darkening lens helmets. So I would stick to a 2 by 4¼ welding shield style like this over something like this. This isn't a great example because this is one of the expensive ones, but I would stay away from non-flip front, just big, bulky, auto darkening welding helmets. And before I go on a whole rant about this, the main reason is that when you work in the field and you work on site as a welder, your clear protective lenses that protect the actual filter lens inside the auto darkening lens, these clear lenses are a consumable item. You go through them. Now, if you're working in a shop where those $400 fancy auto darkening helmets are intended to be used, you're not going to go through them as much. If you watch Arc One Welding, he runs the 3M helmets. He can actually buff and clean his lenses because he has a nice table and he's got an area to use buffing compounds and buff his clear lenses so that he doesn't have to constantly pay to replace them. In the field, you're just not going to have that. You're going to be getting these things dirty. There's a lot more dirt, dust, debris, acid, rain, water, you know, there's mud, there's all kinds of elements that you're going to come in contact with in the field that you won't come into contact with in shop. So you're going to be replacing these much more often. These are not a generic size on a lot of auto darkening welding helmets, so you have to buy the specific ones for your shield. And they're not going to be supplied to you, so you're going to be out of pocket for those. Opposed to these, this is a 2 by 4¼ clear protective lens. You can buy these in bulk. In my cabinet, I probably have 30 right there. I didn't even buy these. I've never bought my own protective lenses for my shield because every company I've worked for supplies them. Because they're a generic size, you can pick these up at quite literally any welding supply store, and they're going to do that for the guys. They're not going to go out and buy custom sized clear lenses for whatever, you know, fancy helmet you have. So the company's not going to go out and pay for your, most likely, maybe they might, but most companies aren't going to pay for your custom lenses on your fancy auto darkening helmet. They're going to pay to replace the ones on your pipeliner style like this. Also, so this is what I would recommend. This is a cheap plastic $15 pipeline style flip front welding helmet. It's got a 2 by 4¼ viewing area. It's got a headlamp riveted to it. I did that myself. You don't buy them like that. And then this one has some upgraded Miller headgear inside of it. This is just a good all-around option. One, because of the price. I mean, it's $15, so you can go out and buy 5 of them. And they're flexible, so you can squeeze them into a lot of spots. I mean, you can't flex very many other shields like that. I love having a face shield when I'm grinding. I'm tired of getting hit in the face with spark, so having a flip up is super helpful. And also this one's modified so that you can actually flip the flip down with your head instead of flipping the whole shield down. So yeah, I would stick to something like this shield instead. Maybe you don't want to, that's okay. You can run the auto darkening, but you can also get the auto darkening lenses for this helmet. I can't recommend an auto darkening lens for these helmets because there's a few manufacturers that make the 2x4¼ auto lenses, but I haven't tried enough out to know what's good and what's not. So if you're a company out there and you make a 2x4¼ lens, go in my description and email me and let me try it out. Maybe if I like it, I'll make a review video and promote it. But otherwise, I can't promote any because I haven't tried enough of them. But if you can find a auto darkening lens you like, I would highly recommend that for these shields. Okay, so now we have marking instruments. I would recommend carrying all of these. So we have a pile of soapstone. A lot of jobs, they supply boxes of soapstone. Stick your hand in, grab a handful, throw it in your pouch, which I'll show you the pouch after. But I would recommend carrying soapstone all the time, especially as an apprentice. Again, a lot of journeymen don't carry soapstone, so they're going to be constantly asking you for soapstone, and if you always have it, they're going to be stoked. I mean, I've been given a lot of compliments just because I've always had soapstone. I've never not had soapstone. So fill your pockets with the stuff. Your dryer's going to fill up with this stuff. It's just how it is. Carry this stuff all the time. This can be used on basically everything but like aluminum and stainless steel. It doesn't really work well on. But everything else, I just always have soapstone with you. You can also have Sharpies. I like to carry a Sharpie all the time. And as well, these paint markers, I like to have one of these all the time, or usually 2 or 3. Again, just more marking tools. You can mark on more stuff with these that you couldn't mark with soapstone. And then a pen. Carry a pen at all times. When you're working in plants and there's a bunch of safety stuff, you got to sign things off, fill out lockout tags, all different things. So instead of even carrying one pen, carry a handful of pens with you all the time. And this is a kind of a fancy one, but carry some to lend out to people because people are going to ask for your pen all the time and they're obviously never going to give it back. So keep a bunch of junk dollar store ones. Up next, I have hand tools. These are just simple hand tools I'd recommend carrying on you. Now, first off, I'd recommend some sort of plier. I prefer MIG pliers, but don't actually have any right now because you lose them on jobs. So I just have a pair of shears right here, but I would prefer carrying a MIG plier. You don't have to be MIG welding to need MIG pliers. They're super useful for a bunch of different other things. So there's that. Next, this is the ultimate measuring tool to me. This is a combo square. I mean, people have a bunch of different names for these: sliding square, combo square, 2-piece square, level square. I don't know. I've heard all kinds of names for it. These are just good to have. Most of them will have a bubble level built into them, so you can just pop that out and now you have a torpedo level basically. And then of course it comes with a 1-foot ruler, and it's also, when you put them together, it makes a square that you can adjust, and that can be really useful for fabricating. They also come with a scribe. I think every single one comes with that. There it is. That just comes in the handle so you can scribe stuff. And then for your adjustable wrench. Some people call these crescent wrench, thumb wrenches, combo wrenches. I don't know, a bunch of different names again. Call them adjustables. This one is really nice. So yeah, adjustable wrench. This one goes up to 1.25 inches, which has actually saved me a few times when no one else had an adjustable wrench big enough. Even though this is only like a 10-inch, it still is just super useful. I prefer to carry one of these on me all the time. This is just like your combo square. You're going to use it all the time. Super useful. Also, I would recommend carrying 11/16 wrench, just an individual one, because a lot of acetylene, oxygen, and argon hose fittings are all 11/16. So sometimes an adjustable won't fit in where the regular 11/16 wrench does. So I would recommend carrying one of those as well. The other one that you could carry is a spud. I don't like carrying spuds because this is a Crescent brand, and if you don't know what this is basically a pry bar in a ways. It's kind of like I guess people would probably wonder what this is. This is for lining stuff up. So you find 2 holes, you put it in, and now you can line those holes up while you know, say I'm trying to bolt this up. I go through the hole next to it, line something up, and put a bolt through. Yeah, it's for lining up holes. That's what that long zombie killing spike thing is. And then of course this one opens up pretty wide. I have one of these on site at all times in the change room, but I don't with all my clothes and stuff. I just have it on standby if I need it, but I don't carry it around with me because this thing is pretty heavy. And it's, you know, if you're wearing a belt with one of these on it, it can be kind of dangerous if you fall over or something and you have a spud go through your leg. But yeah, I just, good to have. I wouldn't recommend carrying all the time unless you're doing a bunch of connecting, then you should probably have one. Okay, my last thing is some sort of work belt with pouches and stuff to carry everything in. Now, I don't recommend ever wearing a work belt while working. I think the only time you should actually be wearing your belt is if you're walking out at heights or something and you have nowhere to put your tools other than in a belt and you have a harness on and stuff like that. You know, iron workers a lot of time need to wear belts to hold their bolts. But a belt, really, you're gonna see that, and you don't wanna wear one all the time. I never wear this except for walking to where I'm gonna be working and walking back for break, or I leave it up there a lot of the time. But we'll just run through what I have this belt for. Okay, so first thing people are gonna notice about this belt is that it is made of polyester and it's got Velcro. It's not FR, it's not leather, it's not fancy. This is quite literally a carpenter's belt that some guy quit and left it on the job, and then I took his belt and upgraded it. So this thing just houses all the tools I just showed you. So some things you should be carrying on here. Another tool you should have on you at all times. Carabiners are just like a must-have. They're super useful. You're gonna end up using them all the time, and you just clip them on your belt, and then you can hang stuff from your belt with these. Now on the belt itself, I got like a tool lanyard over here. I got a bunch of different pouches, and we'll go through it all. So here's my measuring tape holder. Yes, I have a holder specifically for measuring tape. Super useful. You throw your tape in there, buckle it. Now you're not going to be dropping your tape. This is my zipper pouch, so nothing comes out of here because it's always zippered up. It's got a little Velcro on the front I don't use. So basically what I keep in here is a bunch of soapstone, my lockout locks, and then my clear lenses for my welding helmet I keep in here as well, nicely packaged up. Next, we got my keychain. So if you have keys for toolboxes or stuff like that, you just throw them on a keychain. I have some Phillips heads, thumb bits and stuff for adjusting grinder guards. Tool lanyard, and that's all attached to this little pouch so I can throw other keys on these retractables if I need to. Then we have my Python safety pouch. I was actually working on a job and some acid actually ate through this pouch. I got one drop of acid on it, and yeah, now there's a big hole. So I'm gonna have to glue that shut. But you can, this is where you're gonna keep a lot of stuff, but I like to hang most of my stuff off my belt. Here's my respirator pouch. Oh yeah, one quick thing about this pouch, this is pretty cool. It's, you can throw bolts in here. Well, they'll fall out through the hole, but I gotta patch that. But otherwise, you can put bolts and stuff in there, turn it upside down, shake it. The way the mouth is, it won't let anything out. Then we got my respirator pouch. Put my respirator in a bag in here. So yeah, not a fancy belt. You're not gonna be wearing it much. Like I said, take it off, hang it up where you're working. Start working. Once you're done working for the day, you can take it down. It's just a home base for all your stuff. Okay, so this is what mine looks like, all loaded up. Everything is hooked into the belt. So if I pick this belt up, And if you're working at heights or stuff, you don't want to be dropping things. And especially if you're working on grading, you don't want to drop stuff through grading and lose it forever, or it hits somebody and injures them. So every tool I carry is hooked into this belt. Nothing's falling. And that includes the welding shield. I don't want to carry a welding shield around with me all the time in my hand, so I hook it onto my belt through a carabiner. The wrench, the adjustable wrench I carry, it's on a carabiner. Obviously, when I use it, I don't keep it on a carabiner. I just take it off, but there you go. It's hooked in. A pouch for miscellaneous things, bolts, whatever. My combo square is hooked into a carabiner, so whenever I need it, I just unhook it. All my stuff zipped up for soapstone and markers and stuff. My measuring tape's hooked into that measuring tape pouch. This is a great system. Some guys use a duffel bag. I don't like using a duffel bag because I have to rifle through it to find all this different stuff. Now, if I'm on a TIG welding job, I do have my own TIG welding bag with a bunch of different containers and stuff organized. But in general, on any other type of job, I have everything laid out just like you saw. Now, I'd recommend, if you're an apprentice getting into this, build out a belt like this. This could be useful for, even if you're working in a shop, because as an apprentice, you're going to be bouncing around a lot and you're going to be moved around all over the place. You don't get the luxury of being put on one task and one task only for the most of whatever job you're doing. So you're going to need a good variety of stuff. Obviously, you don't need everything I put here. You could add stuff to it or whatever, but just figure out what you need, assemble it on some sort of belt. Keep in mind, you're not going to be wearing that belt all the time, so don't be afraid to hang stuff off of it. And just build it out for your needs and carry it around. You'll have soapstone, you'll have measuring tape and the combo square. You're going to have a good amount of tools. People are going to want to borrow them, try not to lose stuff. And basically, this is just going to make you look prepared. And trust me, just having a belt with the tools that you need is going to put you apart from the rest of the apprentices. Yes, you all work together, but you are in a competition, basically. Now, it doesn't matter even if you're union, non-union, whatever. The more you're prepared, the better you do, the better work you do, and the more you show up on work on time and take overtime, you're going to make more money. If you're organized, you set your stuff up like this, people are going to notice that, and later it's going to pay off. So just organize your stuff. It shows initiative. It looks good. Your foreman's probably going to like it. And it just makes your life easier. Why would you not want to make your life easier? Carry the tools you need.